God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows. God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. But God only knows the real you. There's a kind of love that God only knows.
Welcome to the 22nd episode of Your Journey is Not Over. My name is Tanya Pearson Randolph. This is my own personal journey, and the expressions and opinions are of my own. I own all the rights to my personal journey and to Your Journey is Not Over. Neither are to be used, copied, or edited in any way without my consent. Just so you know, I've been waiting for this episode, and you will soon learn why. It's all good. So I rode back from Kentucky to Indiana with my stepdad and mom. I was really sad and just devastated over the loss of my grandma. And I had a reflex, if you will, that when I would get real nervous, I would throw up. This started when I was real young. My brother would always worry that I would choke in my sleep because I would throw up a lot when I was sleeping. We were on our way back, and I started throwing up. And being in the back seat of the car, the only place I had to throw up was the floorboard. Immediately when I started throwing up, my mom started hollering at me because of where I was throwing up at. I mean, going hysterical. No concern for me at all. Normal my whole life. No motherly instincts. But there again, that was just normal to me. I knew nothing but this behavior from her. I remember I was just sick, and I was helpless in a car with her. And the person who loved me, nurtured me, cared for me, we had just buried the day before. So welcome to my brand new world. My grandpa was gone, my grandma was gone, and my brother was 1,000 miles away. So essentially, he was gone too. Everyone I started my life with in Kentucky was now gone. So back at the car, and the drive home to Indiana. She came across the front seat and started hitting me. And I just remember I was still throwing up, and I was getting hit in the head, and my hair was flying around. I don't know why the memory of my hair flying around still sticks with me, but at that moment in time is when I said a word I had not said in years. I truly thought I would never say that word again. I said, "Dad, please get her off of me." He immediately got her off of me, like he had many times before, and there would be many times to come. The reason why I said in the beginning, this was the episode I've been waiting for myself, and I am the writer. The reason being is because since December 1983, I have not, nor will I ever refer to my dad as my stepdad. That is my dad. Anyone that knows me, grew up with me, knows that. God Himself knows that. I felt so disrespectful in the previous episodes by calling him my stepdad, but I had to tell my journey exactly how it happened. My dad earned his title, I promise you that, and that's a title he will have forever and beyond with me. Like I said before, God didn't leave me abandoned completely. He gave me my dad, and I thank God every day for him. I've went through my life never wanting to disappoint or let down, nor did I ever want for people to ever think that the time they invested in me and the love and the guidance that was given to me was ever wasted in any way. Of course, my grandparents, my brother, and my dad. We get back, and I go to school the next day. I was in the lunchroom eating, and still real quiet, but more so now. I had just lost my grandma. A girl I barely knew walked up to me, poked me on the arm, and proceeded to tell me she wanted to fight me for me to go outside with her. Not really having a clue, and to be honest, I still don't know why that fight happened. But I was angry. Not at the girl. I didn't even know her. But I was angry because I just lost the most important person in my life. So we did fight. That would be my very first fight at school. Of course, I'm in trouble at school, not at home, because I defended myself. But no suspensions. They had what they called the rubber room, merely an office with the blinds closed, and you sat there all day. Makes for a really long day. I do remember both days I got forgotten and missed my bus and had to walk home. It was a pretty long walk. I wasn't forgotten. They sure didn't forget the girl I was in a fight with. She made her bus both days. Let me sum it up. Even though she started the fight, she was from a good family. She had all the nice clothes. I, on the other hand, lived in government housing, and I sure didn't have the nice clothes. I wore hand me downs from older cousins. So it was a way to further punish me by making me miss my bus and walk home. It must have been my fault because I was the troubled poor kid. It wasn't. I was eating my lunch, minding my own business, and hadn't been at school for over a week because of my strep throat and then my grandma's funeral. Funny how it's us poor kids, we get stereotyped. We get judged on who our parents are, how much money they make, what kind of clothes we wear, what kind of house we live in, what kind of cars our parents drive. Should Kids should be judged on who they are individually, not based on material things. And rich or poor, right is right, wrong is wrong. During this time, I still had my boyfriend, and yes, he was in charge. When I say that, I don't mean that in a bossy way. He was not like that with me. He, in fact, always wanted my input, but he did have structure for me and expectations, and literally was my best friend. Looking back through my life now and writing this, I realize he was the only person I have ever let hold me when I cried. If I'm crying and someone hugs me, I instantly dry it up real fast. Remember, I do my crying and my healing alone. Funny the things that you remember. That really didn't mean anything before. It's part of the journey, the healing journey. And looking at it now, I haven't allowed myself to trust or be that vulnerable with anyone since. I know there have been times I tried to be vulnerable and with different people, of course, before my husband, and not understanding then, but having a completely different understanding of it now. I was expecting, I will just say, people to relate, understand me, get me, so to speak. And what I understand now is that if you have never lived my life and endured the things I had to, or as I put it again, my own little way, if you lived a beaver cleaver life, then there is no way you could wrap your head around even a fourth of what I went through. There is no way a person could even begin to understand it, let alone relate. I guess because it was my life, I just thought everyone lived like that, or was raised the same way I was. And through my life, I've expected people to understand me, get me, know how I felt. No way possible. That's an impossible expectation. I did completely open up to my husband, and I told him everything. We were amazing at communicating, and he understood me. But to cry heartbroken tears in front of somebody, that's rare for me. And if I do, it's short lived. I internalize it and I release it when I'm alone. That's why the perception of me is what it is. I'm a mystery. I'm unfazed. I go through hell with such ease. Remember, I'm walking on sunshine. Again, no one knows what goes on behind closed doors. Back to my journey now. New Year's, 1984. My 13th birthday. Again, not realizing till now that by 13 years old, it was like I'd already lived a full life. I spent New Year's Eve with my boyfriend and rung in the New Year's, as I would every year until my 16th birthday. 1984 brought a lot of major changes for me. First time I'd ever smoked pot, and it was the first time was very scary for me. I had been part of the DARE program at school, and I was big time against drugs, and I'd heard all the bad stuff about drugs. Even though I did it, it still scared me. Older friend of my brother's is the person I did it with. Probably I was wanting to be cool and fit in. I was so scared that I went home and I told on myself, and I ended up sleeping with my mom and dad that night. I literally thought I would die in my sleep. I was that scared. Also, that was the year my boyfriend was graduating from high school and he was moving to Florida. I had depended on him so much, and he was who kept me on the straight and narrow, so to speak. I just remember that dread of him leaving me. Again, another person who was leaving me. I had a hard time with that. What I realize now, that of course never realized through my life, is that it was so hard for me to let go of someone I loved. I literally would hold on so tight to anyone I loved. A lot of reasons for that I see now. My abandonment issues, and I had lost my entire world already by this time. Also, I had codependency issues. I got codependent at a very early age just to survive or feel loved. So the fact that he was going to be miles away was scary, that I was still holding on so tight. This concludes my podcast for today. But before I sign off, I just want to say one word. If my dad is listening, anywhere you are, ditto. Please join me Thursday. And always remember, your journey is not over. God bless.
God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows how it's killing you. But there's a kind of love that God only knows.